So you have brought a book. Let's see.
I have brought a book.
Let's talk about the book.
I got this when I was in maybe second grade.
Oh, wow.
And I remember reading through it after seeing the first film.
So
see,
there
this
he
is
looking
even
up. Yeah,
this
there
is
he
even
is.
that scene.
Okay, heck yeah, man.
Of him
So there it
looking
is.
up.
Yeah, there's him. This is that. You're right. The shot at the top there is him working on the moisture evaporator, and then the harvester. Yep, and then
Moisture.
They're trying to get their moisture
evaporator.
farmers.
They're working on the boiler.
Farming moisture.
the moisture evaporator is the planet Tatooine.
Yeah.
Tatooine is the moisture evaporator. They are trying to not evaporate the moisture.
Welcome to the iKnowBadeaux podcast.
Hey, everybody, and welcome to the iKnowBadeaux podcast. Coming at you from the Slice on Oak Studios. I am Mayor Dave Badeaux, the city of Brainerd, and with me, as always, is my brother.
The fuck is this?
Well, it looks like lip balm. Oh, something to go late for later. I don't even want to know. All right, Gabriel Johnson, save us.
Dave, I don't think I can.
Okay, well, that's good enough. Back with us again. Jesse Pubes Hubes.
I'm here again.
You're here again. It is Star Wars
Yes.
Day, and so we could
Leave.
leave.
Well, we're not playing a game, so
I mean, we leave and you just hang out.
Yeah, that would be fun. At the end of the episode, let's all just get up and walk away while he's still talking.
yeah.
All right,
Turn him into our Milton.
should we get into this, folks?
Yes.
Let's do it. This is the Be Kind Rewind, 1977, Part 2. So, Be Kind Rewind, the episodes of the podcast in which we take a year, go back, watch all of the pop culture stuff, consume everything we possibly can for the entire year. Part 1, everything pop culture. Part 2, the movies. We have went from 1988 all the way to 2008. Now we are all the way back to 1977, and specifically we are in 1977 because of Star Wars.
Yes.
Star Wars changes everything. It's a completely different world once Star Wars comes around. Before Star Wars, kind of a snooze fest. A little bit of a snooze fest.
yeah. I mean, there were a couple of big ones like Jaws,
What-
and but nothing to the magnitude that. I mean, that changed.
Right.
You said everything.
Well, and we can talk about Jaws and how technically Jaws is the tent pole.
The first blockbuster.
Yes. It changes cinema completely. The entire concept of, we can make a lot of money came from Jaws. It used to be, you're going to make a 200% profit off of this.
Yeah, you're going to double your money. People want to cool off in the summer and go sit in the theater.
Yep.
Yeah. It's going to cost you $500,000, and then you're going to make $1 million, and yay. And then Jaws comes around, and they're like, "Oh no! You have no idea what the potential of this actually is." And technically, I believe Jaws is one of the very first films that was released simultaneously in theaters, the way that movies are released now.
Oh.
Prior to that, you would start in New York, LA, and you kind of work your way around.
Distribution line.
Oh, so they
slowly
that's
work its
kinda
way
neat.
across the
I didn't know
country.
that.
And it would also, because then you don't have to produce as many of the actual films themselves, the actual product that has to be used in the projectors. Jaws changed that completely.
Oh, they probably do with their marketing efforts too, because they have one of the most iconic posters of all time with
yes.
the shark coming out.
Yes, yeah. And then that, of course, is 1975. Good friends with Spielberg.
Yeah,
Yeah.
George
figure,
Lucas says,
Watch this.
Hold my beer.
Hold my beer.
hold my beer. Hold my space beer. Blue milk.
Blue milk,
if you
yes.
will. But we're going to get to that at the end of the episode. Before we do, we've got 2 other movies we're going to talk about super fast. And the first one that I want to bring up, and I did this for a reason, Smokey and the Bandit.
At last, a warm, sensitive, touching story about the close personal relationship between a man and a woman, between a trucker and his dog,
Fred, I'm so damn tired of picking you up. I got to. Fred!
between a father
No way,
and his son.
no way that you could come from my loins.
how they all took to the road one day for a quiet little drive in the country in Alabama, Texas, Mississippi, Arkansas, Georgia.
Daddy, the top came off. No.
Nailed it.
Okay.
Let's talk about it.
Nailed it.
Let's talk about it. Scott, I'm letting you go first.
I very much enjoyed this movie.
It's a
Sally
good movie.
Field, fucking hot.
Yeah,
Very
what-
young.
Peak
What the
Burt
hell?
Reynolds.
Peak Burt Reynolds. Peak. Burt Reynolds knew who the hell he was.
Oh, yeah.
I picked this movie because this is a movie that people nowadays are like, you know that it exists, right? Everyone knows that Smokey and the Bandit exists.
Right.
But had you consumed it?
Never.
Had you consumed it?
Had not.
You had consumed
Very
it.
much, yes.
I had consumed it, and I knew that this is a fucking hit. Smokey and the Bandit is a fucking hit, and nobody thinks of it anymore as being as big of a movie as it is, and as fun of a movie as it is.
Yes.
It's a blast the whole
Yes.
time.
Okay, is it not? Is it not a great movie?
I'm going to say Jerry Reed.
Yes.
Snowman.
Yes, Snowman.
Oh, he's
Coach Red. People of our generation would know him
From
as.
Waterboy.
Yeah. Eastbound and Down. Wow, we totally missed that when we did our movie
Yeah.
theme song.
Yes.
Just rolling that song the whole time. It's like, hell yeah, let's go.
So that was the secondary reason that I wanted to have this on. Because if you go back, we had an episode a few ago, probably a couple months ago, in which we did songs within a movie that are about the movie
Yes.
that they are in.
Yes.
And we did a whole draft of them. It was on my list of ones that I was maybe going to pick up if you guys stole my other one. That was my next one off
This
the
is
board.
this is a first round pick.
Yeah.
Bound and down, loaded up and trucking. Are we gonna do what they say can't be done?
I will admit now that I completely fucked up by not going with it. It is so. I have been singing this song, dude, for 3 weeks straight.
Dude, it's been stuck in my head. It's stuck in my head for a week.
And you kind of walk like this while you do.
Anytime there's a quiet moment in my restaurant, I'm just like, we gonna do what they say can't be done.
It's really funny because even Callie, we watched this because I had already consumed it once, and then you still had the DVDs, and the only one I still had to watch was Saturday Night Fever. And so I'm like, you didn't watch this with me, did you? And she's like, no. And we're okay, we'll watch this again. And I put it on, and we got done, and she's like, that's an awesome movie. And I was like, thank you. Smokey and the Bandit is an awesome movie.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, just a ton of fun.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Jerry Reed, like you said, more known as a musician,
Yep.
and then, of course, sings Eastbound and Down. I really appreciated in the movie that when they start off, they're not headed east. They're headed west.
No, they got to get to Texas. They got to Texarkana.
So the song starts as Westbound and Down.
Yep. It does.
Holy shit. I didn't even
They
notice
got to go
that.
pick up the beer.
So not only is the song in the movie about the movie, it is literally doing what they're doing as they do it.
It is evolving with the movie.
Yes, yeah. So let's talk super fast. Let's give the whole spiel as to what it is. Smokey and the Bandit. Smokey is the police. Bandit is Burt Reynolds. Maybe my favorite plot of any movie.
trying to guard a semi-truck full of beer.
Yes.
Keeping highway patrolmen off their butt with a Trans Am.
Yep.
Not
Or
a lot.
Firebird.
Not a lot of complexity.
Right? Yes.
Yep.
Yeah.
I would say this: the first
A lot of cops end up in the drink.
A lot of cops.
Oh,
well, this is peak 70s.
Yep.
The cop car in the drink, in the swamp, in the river, in whatever.
Yep.
That is
yeah.
a classic 70s cinema television.
Oh, yeah. That's a year before the Dukes started.
Yes.
And that's all that show was.
And
was
that-
cop cars going off the road or going into water.
Yeah.
The 70s James Bonds movies, that's all it is.
Blues Brothers,
Yep.
the mall scene.
Yeah. I would say that when you first start off the movie, the first little bit, there's a different song about the bandit. And it's just showing a bunch of 18-wheelers and stuff. And when you first push play, you go, what are we doing here?
Yeah.
And then it quickly turns to, we're going to establish the entire concept of the movie. This guy's an 18-wheeler. He's been pulled over by the police. What's going on? He's got a whole truck of Coors.
Was it Coors? That's the
Specifically
Yes.
Coors, because evidently 1977, you take Coors beer,
can't cross state lines with that Coors.
you take it east of Texas.
East of the Mississippi River. I looked it up. That was the law. It couldn't go east of the Mississippi River because Coors was unpasteurized. So
Is that what it is?
In the east, they wouldn't allow it.
Oh, really? I had no idea. I thought it was just like distribution lines or something because it was unpasteurized.
It was a deal. It was a deal with distribution lines. It was a deal with Anheuser-Busch, but it was because Anheuser-Busch pasteurized. They took the east. Coors unpasteurized. They had the west.
Wow.
Must be pretty lucrative money to move that much Coors
Wow.
beer across.
Paid $80,000 for
Yeah.
200 cases of beer.
We're not saying it's not completely ridiculous.
In 1977,
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
like $1 million.
That's what I kept thinking in my head. I was like doing the math, and I'm like $80,000 because he's like, we're going to get enough to buy a new. And they keep calling it a truck, but you're going to get a new tractor. We're going to get a new 18-wheeler. And I kept doing the math in my head. I was like, $80,000 seems like you could buy a lot of 18-wheelers. So, basic plot. There's a gentleman and his very short son that they're having a shindig in Atlanta.
But the son, though, he's a grown little man.
Well, I called him short. I didn't
He's
call
a
him.
short son, though. Like he's got a mustache and a big old weird haircut.
He's a tiny man. We got big and little, they call him. We got big and little.
Not just his son.
Yeah.
He's a man.
Yeah.
He wants.
Tiny.
What's that Coors?
Which is a great introduction to Burt Reynolds. Burt Reynolds immediately
size 68 large.
dwarf.
And a size 12 dwarf.
Peak Burt Reynolds, the first time you see him in this movie, he's just laying in a hammock, which I love that it's like zebra print, but it's just crudely painted with some brush strokes. So it's like some kind of cloth that's just been painted to be fake zebra. He's got his hat tipped down. He looks up, he looks at them, and immediately starts laughing. that is your introduction.
Laughs at him and talks shit.
Yes.
And he was a celebrity who was paid to be there. He's a draw that people want to come see. And he's just napping on a hammock. He doesn't give a shit.
No, not one bit. The plot goes, they're going to have a party in Atlanta. They need to get this booze, 200 cases of Coors Light, from Texarkana to Atlanta. And that's the entire plot. The entire plot. 28 hours to get from over to point A, then over to point B.
It's 900 miles one way and 900 miles back.
Yeah. I love this movie. I actually love this movie. I secretly have been quietly just waiting for you guys to consume it without making any comments on it.
It's so funny.
It's just they don't make movies like this anymore.
Right.
They do not make movies like this.
Well, they don't, but also because it's 1977. Jackie Gleason
Yes.
as Buford T. Justice. Maybe my favorite line in the whole movie is there's no way that you came from my loins. As soon as I get home, first thing I'm going to do is punch your mama in the mouth.
Yes.
I laughed so hard.
Oh, Danny.
Callie just goes, "Aw."
No way that you could come from my loins. Soon as I get home, the first thing I'm gonna do is punch your mama in the mouth.
I knew that's the best line in the whole movie.
What a great movie.
Best line.
Of course, as they're driving at one point, they do the thing. Happens in so many movies of that era where they drive under the semi and it takes the top off. There's a James Bond movie that does it. I think it's View to a Kill. That one's more in the 80s, but just this time frame where that was just a go-to move. So then for the rest of the movie, they're just driving in a cop car without. And
You can't drive this piece of shit on my road.
the son is just sitting next to him, holding his hat.
Throughout the rest of the movie.
Literally the rest of the movie. He just
He's literally.
You'll see two very clear stuntmen driving, and it's just the one guy with his hand on the other guy's hat. Oh my God, I just kept laughing at it every single time. So Burt Reynolds, fantastic. This shows, if you don't know or understand Burt Reynolds, consume this movie, you will understand Burt Reynolds. But Jerry Reed, again, musician, fantastic.
Crushes his
God.
role. Crushes his role.
Unbelievable. Cletus, what a name. Cletus.
Oh, that's the son's name, right?
That's
That's the little guy.
Snowman.
Or the,
No, that's
or
Snowman.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
Cletus Snow.
Yeah, Cletus, yeah.
I just know Snowman.
He does a fantastic job. Some of the best parts of the whole movie are his little, antics off the beaten path a little bit, where he gets in the fight.
Yeah.
Just all of a sudden, yeah.
He just gets 86'd from the bar. Or, excuse me, sorry. Kicked out of the bar.
Yeah. Come on, Scott. Just stay with the parlance of our time. He starts a fight and gets kicked out of the car, and then he's on the CB radio.
Yeah. Oh God. One of my favorite parts. When what does he say? He basically just tells him like, "Hey, I got into some trouble."
Yeah, and the guy goes, "How'd it go?"
Burt Reynolds says like, "Go about as it usually does."
Yeah.
He goes, "Yep, I lost."
But a crazy concept in that Burt Reynolds is the runner, so his job is just to get out in front of the 18-wheeler and take any of the heat from any of the cops so that they can go 110 miles an hour in a goddamn 18-wheeler. Gets a little weird at the end when they're like right next to each other, and it's like, well, no, Burt Reynolds, they're chasing you in a helicopter. You go that way. And then he just goes straight, and you're fine. That part's a little strange, but by then you've bought into the premise. It doesn't matter.
Well, the whole thing is, as they slowly get closer and closer to home, more and more people know who they are and what they're doing.
Yeah.
So now it's not just Smokey versus the Bandit. Now it's Smokey versus everybody, because everybody's on the Bandit side.
Yes.
Covering for him.
Yeah.
And the part when they're driving between all the semis and the convoy and they hide him and shit.
Oh, yeah.
So fucking cool.
So good.
So cool.
Yeah. And stuff like that happened all the time.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
Let's move on, though, because there's the third character from this movie, Sally Fields.
Yeah, the mother from Mrs. Doubtfire.
What?
Who the f knew she was such a smoke show?
Forrest Gump's mom.
Forrest Gump's mom. Wow. Yeah, it really changes.
The principal knew.
Changes that.
Yeah.
Yeah, she really
likes your education.
Yeah, cares deeply about his education. Smoke show. Absolute smoke show in 1977. There's one scene where she gets out of the car and she's got the tight. Okay, first of all, both of them. The tightest
jeans.
pants. The tightest pants you've ever seen. If you've ever wanted to see Burt Reynolds bulge, Smokey and the Bandit is for you.
I didn't notice because those high-waisted tight pants on Sally Field.
Yes. Well, there's
Unbelievable.
There's a part where she gets out of the car and then is like walking, and I just go, "Oh, that's a nice ass." And then Cletus goes, "That's a nice ass." And I was like, "Thank you, Cletus." Cletus, you and I are the same. But yeah, smoke show, absolute smoke show, and does a great job in the role.
Yeah.
I think this movie is very well acted for what it is. It's nothing that needed to be heavy lifting, but they bring you right along the whole way. The music is just bumping the whole time.
Oh, so good.
Yeah.
So I saw a thing that Burt Reynolds sent the script to Sally Field.
Okay.
And told her, "Don't read the script. The script's terrible.
Yeah.
But the premise is something that we can work with if we improvise." So, so I'm curious how much of the movie was written versus improvised, because he was like, "It sucks, but we can do that. We could make this work."
Yeah, there's some very clear dialogue between them that feels off the script or off the cuff. There's one in particular where she says, like, "What are we gonna do?" And he says, "We're gonna sleep, sleep for days or whatever." And she goes, "You want to bet?" It's like, that's a good line.
Oh yeah,
that's a good line. At a girl. Also, he informs that he only takes his hat off for two things.
Oh yeah, you can take it off if you want.
Yeah. It's implied. The banging is implied. When the Bandit takes his hat off, it's for two things. Both of them are fucking. Yeah. So Jesse, any other takes on Smokey and the Bandit?
No, it just say overall, just a great. I mean, just action, car chase, comedy, gold.
Yeah, this is 70s comedy to me. Like this wraps up most of what I think of when I think of 70s movies. It's that basic lowbrow comedy that isn't like cheesy. It's just, like, yeah, it's funny when the car goes into the drink. It's funny every time, and the outlandish police officers. Jackie Gleason is a perfect actor.
Yes, what a big comeback role, because I mean he hadn't done a whole lot since like The Honeymooners, had he?
When you make that kind of money though, right? For that time,
he was like huge through the 50s.
Like the Jackie Gleason show was like the 50s and 60s, so he was set.
He was set.
Yeah, because he was the one from Honeymooners, right?
Yes. Yeah. And that mustache, man, that mustache is not appropriate.
I will say it's a fun movie the whole time. It's great. But if you take movies seriously, it's a little ridiculous that the helicopter chase, every squad car in Georgia is on them. They just go park in the middle of the racetrack and walk away. Yeah. And it's
like, hey, we're done.
It's done. No consequences. Oh, he delivered the beer. We can't stop him.
Well, technically, they didn't know he had the beer.
Well, but the semi is right there.
Well, that was the dumbest part of the whole movie, was that they're not after the semi.
Right.
At no point
away from the deal. Yeah.
No, he was doing his job, taking the smoke.
Yeah. And at no point during the movie are they even aware that the semi exists until Cletus says, well, fuck this.
Yeah, they don't know I'm here.
They don't know I'm here. You better let them know before we pull in. Because really what you should have done is the semi just pulls in and goes, what was that all about?
Yeah.
And you keep going that way, you dummy. We'll meet up later on.
Yeah,
what are you doing? He can go get the money. You don't have to drive. The bandit doesn't have to be there to get the money. The beer shows up. The money is exchanged. Cletus goes and watches the race. And then you circle back around and pick him up later. But that wouldn't be as exciting or fun. No. All right, we can move on from Smokey and the Bandit. But I love it. It's one of those that I've been waiting for, because it's like, okay, nobody talks about this movie anymore. And it's so fun. And it does spearhead a whole renaissance of these things. There's Smokey and the Bandit. There's Smokey and the Bandit 2, which is not very good. And 3 does not have Sally Field in it. And Burt Reynolds only makes a cameo. It is just Cletus for the most part. 2 drove me nuts because they buy a new rig, and then they take that same sticker they've got down the side, the decal with the stagecoach. Yeah, they take that and they put it on the side of the new rig, but the new rig is like 33% larger, so it doesn't fit. And that was enough for me to not want to watch that movie. It was literally enough for me to not want to watch that movie. It was like, okay, guys, come on, a little effort. Yeah.
But also, Cannonball Run was shortly after this.
Cannonball Run. That's another one.
So Cannonball Run will be interesting because we'll go ahead and watch that. And Cannonball Run is an interesting premise because it is based off of an actual thing.
The Cannonball Run.
And then there are other versions of that race that were made in the 70s as well. I think there's one with David Carradine as well. I think it might just be called Cannonball. So that'll be a cool concept. But yeah, that style of movie becomes its own genre for a while. So, okay, so let's move on from that one. We don't really do stars in these episodes, but that one is
watch it.
Go watch it.
Watch it.
Go watch it
today.
You'll love it. Well, Scott didn't even give it back. Scott, so you said that you enjoyed it. Scott's message to me was, I'm not giving you your DVD back.
I said, by the way, I'm keeping Smokey and the Bandit.
They can see right down into this car, you know that?
Well, so what? That's why I used to love to drive those trucks, darling. Spot those beavers.
All right, next film, folks, on our list. It's a short list today. Our next film is The Spy Who Loved Me. So we're sticking with our James Bond theme for a little bit. Scott got into a little kick because we got him going in the pre-1977 movies. And it just so happens that The Spy Who Loved Me is, in many people's eyes, the best of the Roger Moore James Bond movies.
Okay.
So let's talk about it for a little bit.
I would say so. And that was the 10th James Bond film, I believe.
It's got to be pretty close to that, yeah. Jesse, I'm going to let you take the lead on Spy Who Loved Me because I would assume you've got a pretty good feel for it.
That's probably one of my favorite Roger Moore ones.
Okay. What's your favorite one?
It's such a toss-up.
Really?
I've got so many. With Bond, I mean, there's just so much Bond.
Are you a Roger Moore fan?
Now you want to know, like, overall?
In terms of James Bond, are you a Roger Moore fan?
I want to say he's going to come in. He's so close with me with Connery.
Okay,
but so you are definitely a fan.
Yeah, I would say that
he's close to the best.
Maybe the best.
Could be the best. Maybe just number 2 though. Okay, yeah, that's a higher take than me on him. I think I enjoy his movies less than I enjoy some of the other James Bond
then,
movies.
I mean, the ones, because obviously I grew up with,
yes.
Brosnan was like, whoa.
Yeah.
That was a whole deal.
But then he has the real stinkers as well. So
that's true. But I also really like, and I think he should have got more, is Dalton.
Oh, Dalton would have been a home run for because Dalton should have done GoldenEye. That would have been a home run.
That would have been, he was supposed to do GoldenEye.
That would have been a home run. I do like A Spy Who Loved Me. I think it's a little long in terms of James Bond movies. I really like his first one. I really like the Live and Let Die. I think that one's very fun. A lot of car chases. Maybe I just like 70s car chases. Maybe that's it. Yeah. But Spy Who Loved Me, this is the third of the Roger Moore ones.
Yep.
So there is Live and Let Die, and then there is an absolute stinker, which is, and now I'm drawing a blank on The Man with the Golden Gun.
Oh, yeah.
Which you would think would be a home run. It sounds like a home run.
Yeah, that's the one that I remember the most from being a kid.
Yeah.
It's got one of the coolest names.
It does have one of the coolest names. It just looks too much like Fantasy Island to me because it's got Knick Knack from Fantasy Island.
Oh, that's right. What was his name?
Well, it's Knick Knack.
Javier Chavez or something
you're right,
like that. Yeah.
Doesn't he have like a real tragic...
He does. I guess, he dealt with a lot of pain with his...
Being small.
Yes.
Yes.
And eventually, I think he killed himself when he was like 50.
Oh, well, that's a long life.
Oh, yeah. It was like early, mid-90s. What the heck?
It's fine.
It's like
whatever.
It's like
that little to live that long.
Yeah. it's like the big guys too. They don't make it that far. They don't make it that long.
Good gravy. We're getting canceled today.
No, I don't think we will. I'm not ashamed of that. It's a well-known fact. But that's kind of a stinker. And then this one was, in terms of James Bond films, this is one of the higher ones. People really like this movie a lot.
Yeah. That was Carly Simon that did the soundtrack, or the main song, wasn't it?
I think you might be. Yeah, I think you might be right.
I thought you were a Bond fan.
I'm thinking Duran Duran, but that's View to
Kill.
Yeah. So this film starts off with one of the most iconic of all the James Bond openers. James Bond is skiing, which James Bond needs to ski. Mm-hmm. That's a crucial part of it.
I was going to say, was this the one where there's the whole like chase scene down the hill?
Down
the mountain. Like 17 Bond movies.
Hold on a second now. Yeah, so hold on.
Oh, yeah, James Brosnan. They all bunch that do that.
I thought you were a Bond fan.
Stop. Jesse.
Is this the one that has the thing that they all do?
What else would they be doing on skis? Cross country? What are you talking about?
Were they going down the mountain?
Was this
the thing where they're in the woods?
Was this one that involved snowmobiles, or was that the Brosnan one?
Okay, stop talking.
No snowmobiles.
Maybe.
Helicopter?
I don't know. This one has the stunt where the guy jumps off the cliff on the skis and opens up the parachute.
Oh.
This is like one of the most iconic moments in Bond. So there is a skier that skis right off a mountain, opens up a parachute.
Falls for a really long time.
Falls for a really long time.
Before opening the parachute. I told my daughter that it was real.
Yeah.
That he really did that.
Yeah.
And she's watching him fall like, is he going to open? Oh, thank God. She got nervous.
And of course, when he opens the parachute, it is the iconic Union Jack. And then they plays the Bond music. And it's one of the biggest moments in Bond history. So much so that they reused it for the Olympics in London when they had it. He comes down and there's the parachute with the Union Jack. The fun thing about that skiing stunt was it came about because the producers saw a picture of someone doing it in a magazine and were like, that'd be cool. And they're like, well, how would we do it? And they're like, well, why don't we just get that guy? So they find the guy. He's in California. Hey, we'd like you to do this. It turns out he never actually did it.
No.
It was just faked for the magazine. But he's like, but I could do it.
I know I could.
Does he have any kind of experience in this line of work?
I could fake it like with the best. Fake it till you make it.
Or fall to your death.
Yeah, I've got this, guys. So they got the guy. They got him up in the mountain. His name is Rick Sylvester. And they brought him up in the mountains. It's really funny because in the movie, you can clearly see the track that leads him right down to where he's going to go off. And they basically they had 5 cameras on him, and they basically said, don't go until we bury this red flag in the snow. And then once we do, take off, everything's ready. So he goes down, he goes off the mountain, and almost every single camera misses the shot. Oh. They had a helicopter that was the main one, totally missed the shot. They had 2 other cameras, I believe, that totally missed the shot. And then luckily there's one camera that just stayed with him the whole time and then kind of zoomed in. And so in the movie, it's all one shot.
Right.
And that's because they didn't have
it wasn't supposed to be. That's awesome.
They had 5 cameras on him, and at least there may have been some other footage they could have used, but it ended up being nope, that's all we've got.
That would have been a costly error if that one camera didn't get it.
Yeah, and it actually turns out really cool.
It works super well.
It gets reused. Like you think about GoldenEye when they do the stunt where he jumps off the thing, they do the same thing mainly.
Yeah, the same camera angle and everything.
Just keep the long shot because it's so effective. Cut the sound, watch the guy go. Same thing with Cammy. Like, is he going to pull the chute or what?
Yeah.
And of course he does. So, fun movie. It again is the Roger Moore James Bond, so it is 1970s. It's a little bit more quirky, a little too long in my eyes, but it's got your standard beats of James Bond movies. Builds to the big crescendo at the end, and everything blows up. And then he has, I would say, the best ending line of any James Bond. So they end up in a
escape pod of sorts in the water.
Yeah. And it's floating around, and then as this tends to happen a lot, right? They're like, where's James Bond? And then they go and they find him and he's with the lady.
I was going to say, wasn't he with the lady?
He always disappears with the lady for a little bit.
Wasn't there like a champagne in there or something? Yeah. And he's just like, well, what are we going to do?
Yeah. And they go, James, what are you doing? And he says, keeping the British end up. End of movie.
Bond, what do you think you're doing?
Keeping the British end up, sir.
All right.
James Bond will be back, folks. Scott takes on the film.
I gotta say, after watching so many Bond movies recently, that the sets are wild.
Yeah.
And then on this DVD, there's actually a behind the scenes that talked specifically about him. And the guy, Ken Adam, I think. And you get to see all of his illustrations and everything and see him come brought to life.
Yeah.
Like all the shit that happens in those movies, all those giant rooms that they're in with the spinning tables and the whatever. People had to build that, and the guy had to design that.
Yeah.
And he fucking crushes it.
Yeah.
The set designs in these movies are awesome.
That's before they could just add those little things with CGI, and they actually had to
build
these huge
things.
Yeah, it is the thing that I love the most about the James Bond films is they go into these outlandish type scenarios, which end up with these really cool sets at the end. And it's typically they get bigger as the movie goes. It starts kind of cramped and then slowly gets bigger and bigger until you get to in this case, the layer is this what do you even call it?
It's like the Justice League Legion of Doom thing.
It's like out in the water, but it raises up. It's on hydraulics, so he can lower it down to the water and then raise it up. And when it's raised up, it's gigantic. But then there's just really cool scenes with, you've got your subs, your submarines.
Yeah.
And
or the giant freighter ship that they have that has to like open up. They build a little miniature of that to make that shot work. Like the behind the scenes camera work and sets and models and
really
stuff.
Interesting.
Is super cool.
Yeah, my only knock on this film is it steals the entire plot from You Only Live Twice. You Only Live Twice starts off as happens in Austin Powers, where the spaceship gets swallowed up by a larger spaceship. So in that film, Spectre is trying to take different spaceships and make the U.S. versus Russia, right? In this, it's the same thing, only with submarines. Literally the exact same thing. It's the exact same thing. Sure. Only with, and I think it's funny.
It works.
It works. I think it's funny because somebody basically said, like, well, what if we did it with boats? That's a James Bond film for you, folks. Very cool. I also enjoy that this is when you start to get kind of the running gags a little bit that happen in the 70s versions. So Jaws is in this one of the cooler of the henchmen.
Yep.
I say cooler, but then also like really awkward.
Yeah.
Like super. It's like, hey, we got this guy that's not really an actor. He is an actor by Happy Gilmore.
Richard Keel.
But they put that metal stuff in his mouth, and I guess it was super uncomfortable. He could only have it in there for a while.
It looked super comfortable.
But his scene at the end of the movie, spoiler alert, I guess.
Well, that was his last movie, wasn't it? Was that his last?
No, he was in Moonraker, wasn't he?
I'm literally talking about reoccurring gags. Yeah. So I'm literally saying...
Well, I couldn't remember if he was later on, because I know
literally saying that this is the start of his reoccurring gag. It's the point I'm actually making right now. So no, this is not the end. This is him at the end of the movie. What happens?
Bond pulls this giant magnet and lowers it down and tricks him into looking up, and the magnet catches his metal teeth, and then he lifts him up and is dragging him over the water to drop him in with the sharks.
Yes.
How the f*** they do that?
Oh, that's a really good question.
How the f*** did they do that? Because it sure looks like he's dangling from his teeth.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe you just put a harness and
it had to pull him up, sort of a neck harness. Because
I guess, but I've watched it a couple of times and like really looked at it and be like, what the fuck is happening here?
They should have changed his names to Lips in the next movie because he wouldn't have no lips after his teeth were smashed into the magnet. Very cool though. They quickly learned that he was a hit.
Yeah.
And so they bring him back for Moonraker. And
he comes out of nowhere all the time.
Yeah.
And it's quite comical. Like when they crash the car into the little cabin.
Yes.
And he just comes out and dusts himself off, walks by. Like, oh, okay. He can't die.
He's like a Terminator if the Terminator was just slightly retarded.
God.
He wasn't a very intelligent
villain. He's a brute. He's a thug.
But also in this film, there's one of my favorite things from the 70s James Bond films. So they obviously have to have these cool gadgets. He's got the car. What kind of car is it? Is it a Lotus or what is it in this one?
Aston Martin?
No, it's a Lotus. I think it's
the
Lotus.
white. Yeah, this is the white sports car.
Oh, that's the white. Yeah, I'm trying. He changes.
It might not be a Lotus, but anyways, think of a small little Lamborghini essentially.
Dalton had the Lotus.
Yeah, Dalton had the Lotus. Yeah, they make it so that it can drive off a dock and into the water. It becomes a submersible, which is super fun because then from a filmmaking perspective, they had to have like 8 versions of that car, like one for every part of the transformation. It's like, oh, now this happens.
Yep. Oh, now the propellers are on. Oh, now it's got the little wings.
Yeah, those are all different cars they had to build to do okay, now let's, come on guys, get the wheel out.
Yep, the tires turn in on each other.
Yeah.
That's another car.
So that happens. They kind of do their underwater scene. And then, of course, James Bond just drives up onto the beach.
Yes.
And as he drives up, there's the alcoholic guy drinking his booze, and he just kind of like looks at the bottle and is all perplexed that this has happened.
What am I on?
They have that exact same guy in Moonraker doing the exact same bit, and then they do it a third time in For Your Eyes Only as well. Literally the exact same running gag. But it's fun. I kind of like that. Yeah. It gives you the mood of the Roger Moore versions of James Bond.
Moore did have the Lotus too.
It was a Lotus.
I had to look it up.
Okay.
Because I thought Dalton, he kept...
I know Dalton has a Lotus because I'm pretty sure it says Lotus on the back in like big letters.
Because I'm thinking, wait a minute. No, the underwater scene, that was Moore.
That is Moore.
So I was like, oh no, he did have that.
All right, that's enough for
That's enough out of you.
That's enough. Spy Who Loved Me. Final thought though on it, Scott.
It was good fun. Yeah, you said it's a little long.
Yep.
But yeah, super cool watch.
Yeah, Gabe has not consumed it because he's not a James Bond consumer.
You're getting into it.
I've got it. Yeah, I'll be watching it.
Okay, because we're getting close now, boys, to where I'm going to make you watch every single one of them, and then we're going to pick our favorites.
Yeah, I have On Her Majesty's Service.
Yeah, you got to watch that.
I'm going to watch that one. That's next, and then I'll watch The Spy Who Loved Me.
Yes. Jesse, final take on Spy Who Loved Me.
Just another good Bond film, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Solid. Like, I do agree, it did kind of drag.
It does drag by the end, yeah. Actually, I would say I like the very end of it. It's the middle portion that drags a little bit. So, all right, folks, let's get into it. This is the very last subject of our day, and it is the big one. And it's the whole reason why we picked 1977. This is Star Wars.
Small little film that year.
Little indie film. Do we know what the budget on it was? What I wonder what the actual budget of 1977 Star Wars.
I don't know the numbers offhand, but I do know he did have to go beg them for a little more money, and they almost were like, no.
Yeah, it is an interesting story when you start talking.
It almost went. I mean, it almost didn't happen. It was happening, but then it almost got just no.
It wasn't going well.
So the budget for episode 4,
yes,
$11 million.
Okay.
Oh, wow.
The budget for Empire Strikes Back, $18 million.
Wow.
Doesn't seem like that much more, honestly.
The budget for sorry. I thought this was going in order because then it says the next Star Wars, $300 million. Oh no, that's The Last Jedi. Return of the Jedi was 32.5.
Okay.
They spent $300 million on that pile of garbage.
That's crazy. That's crazy. So the original Star Wars, 1977, George Lucas, fresh off of American Graffiti, he says, I want to go make this serial, essentially is what it is. The whole concept came from you used to be able to go and watch episodic movies on like a Saturday matinee.
Yeah, like Flash Gordon.
Yeah, they were called like serials. So you'd go and you'd watch a part of it, and then it'd be like, next time. And then you'd come back and you'd see the next part of it. A totally foreign concept.
Yeah.
For what we have now.
Well, he splashed so many elements, like you say, like that serial type thing, and like the King Arthurian kind of storylines.
Yes.
And then like even like World War II dogfights is what inspired all the space battles.
Yeah, it's crazy that he takes this concept of I want to go make that because I really enjoyed that experience, and then takes it and spends, I believe, like 2 years writing the script. And initially it turned out to be like a 200-page script, which is basically it's about a minute per page. So a 200-minute movie is not going to
sounds like George Lucas.
Yes.
That sounds like 3 movies.
Yes. And that's what ended up happening was he said, okay, this is 3 movies. I'm just going to shoot the first portion of it, and then went back and rewrote that to have it be more effective. Death Star was not initially a part of that initial movie.
Okay.
It would have happened later on, but he moved it up because it needed a final beat in the film. But it's a crazy concept.
You need to entertain people with movies.
Yes, yes. But it's a crazy concept because sci-fi movies were happening, but sci-fi movies were very slow.
Oh, yeah.
It was Star Wars.
2001.
Star Wars.
Yeah,
They were just, they were kind of dull.
Yeah, they were very dull. They were, I mean, space type stuff typically was, you didn't, if you had spaceships, they weren't doing dogfights like you said. His initial footage that he showed executives of the film, he had just put in black and white dogfights from World War II, and like, so they're watching this movie, and then all of a sudden it's just a clip of a World War II dogfight, and they're like, "What is happening?"
Just imagine there's some space with,
and imagine George Lucas trying to do that, like the quiet guy in the corner is like, "But it's in space." But the entire concept of doing that is such a foreign thing that nobody had really tried to do before, and it's crazy.
He went to several studios.
Yeah, most people did not want to make
No,
this.
they're like, are you kidding me?
Well, yeah, it took him years to get it financed.
Yes.
And then I think he self-financed episodes 5 and 6.
He did, because he wanted creative control.
Yeah.
And the nice thing is too, when he finally did land the studio, he's like, oh, and I want all the rights to the merchandise.
Yeah.
And they're
they
like,
gave it to
merchandise?
Yeah, go
What?
ahead.
Who the hell? Go,
Yeah.
Go for it.
Yeah. Well, and again, this is the changing of the guard.
because there weren't, you didn't
That's
have
not-
huge toy lines for movies
That's
before
not what
that.
movies were.
No.
Movies were movies.
You had toy lines.
Yeah.
But they were just a couple figures.
You went to the theater, you watched the movie, that was the entire product of a movie. There was no, this is going to video. There was no toys. There was nothing.
If you want a toy, go get a Tonka truck.
Yes.
Right? That's what you had.
Well, yeah, there was very little merchandising, like I said, for movies or TV. It existed, but in pretty small
amounts.
Yeah.
And it definitely wasn't movies. Movies was very, very rare.
No.
So the crazy thing to me about Star Wars more than anything is just his entire concept of like what he wants to create. I was watching a thing today, actually this morning, where he is talking about how the entire opening of the movie with the two droids is completely ripped off from Akira Kurosawa's Hidden Fortress. So it's this idea that there's this big, massive thing happening, this larger than comprehension battle between Empire and whatever, and you take two unassuming characters that really have nothing to do with anything, and you start off the movie by showing them. And it mirrors almost perfectly where they get separated, they end up back together, move on, yada, yada, yada. It's like 17 minutes before Luke Skywalker is in this film.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
So the main character of this film doesn't show up till, what is that? I mean, probably a fourth of the way. Like a fifth of the way through the movie.
There's a whole.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you had the battle. They boarded them. They had that.
The droids go off.
The
The
escape
droids
pod,
get captured. And then
they're going through the desert until they stumble on the Jawas, and then finally get introduced to.
He finally shows up once they get captured
purchase
again.
them. Yeah.
Yep.
So that entire concept, he wanted it to be that way. All of his buddies said, that's a terrible idea. So he shot all this footage of the way you would normally make a movie, where like reintroducing the characters and yada, yada, yada.
There was scenes actually where Luke is watching that battle.
Yes. Yeah. There's
And
footage of him looking up in the sky, which is kind of cool. Like he's on because that's what it would look like.
Yeah, he's working
right?
on a moisture thing in the desert.
You like look up and there's a war happening in space.
They filmed it. I mean, you could see little blips.
Yeah.
It looked like a battle going on, maybe in space. I don't know if you could quite see it from that distance.
There's a bunch of stuff about him and his friends, and he's kind of getting ready. Like it's kind of building up to go off into his adventure.
That's my biggest thing about that movie.
That it doesn't have that, or
that they did have that. Like they left that scene in a book.
Okay, hold on. So Jesse has brought a book to an audio podcast.
Yeah, you read books.
Yeah. No. We're a video podcast as well. But hold on. So you have brought a book. Let's see.
I have brought a book.
Let's talk about the book.
I got this when I was in maybe second grade.
Oh, wow.
And I remember reading through it after seeing the first film.
So
See,
there he
this is
looking
even
up. Yeah,
this
there
is
he
even
is.
that scene.
Okay, heck yeah, man.
him
So there it
looking
is.
up.
Yeah, there's him. This is that. You're right. The shot at the top there is him working on the moisture evaporator, and then the harvester. Yep, and then
Moisture.
They're trying to get their moisture
evaporator.
farmers.
They're working on the boiler.
Farming moisture.
the moisture evaporator is the planet Tatooine. Tatooine is the moisture evaporator. They're trying to not evaporate the moisture. But you're absolutely correct. So there he is. He's looking up, and then here you go.
And
So
then I get
literally
to this
exactly
part,
what we're talking about.
and I'm like,
Yes.
who the f is this guy?
Yeah.
Oh, Hitler.
But
in a cape. It's Hitler in a cape. That's why he was cut.
But yeah, they filmed this whole the Tashi station scene.
Yeah.
They filmed that too.
So they've got him and his good buddy here, who actually they eventually did put back in the film in the special editions.
He was still in the original cut for a second.
Yes.
And then they made you couldn't really tell it was him from the book, because that's why I'm like, who's this guy?
Yeah.
Because he had the helmet on most of his scene. He had like maybe 2 or 3 scenes. Or no, 2 scenes. One in the hangar before, and then one when he gets killed fighting the Death Star run.
Yeah.
And they just, made it. Luke had such a reaction to it, and it's like, well, why are you this attached to this guy?
Sure.
But that would have set up a
kinda,
lot more.
They kind of
Yeah, well, they kind of like
before
Biggs,
they're going off, like
Biggs
have their little thing.
Darklighter.
Yeah, Biggs.
Biggs what?
Darklighter. He had a last name.
Darklighter.
Yeah.
Okay.
Darklighter?
Yeah, come on.
Darklighter.
I got a
I think
question
that
for you.
Yeah.
Who is Kit Fisto?
Oh man.
He's that weird looking. He's like a really alien
Looks like a
looking
toad.
dude. Yeah.
Is that the toad? Kid
Kit Fisto.
He's the toad?
I don't know. I just know that there's a character whose name is Kit Fisto
in
in Star Wars.
I only know Fisto
Or
from
wait a minute.
He-Man.
Or was he Anakin's buddy on episode 1?
He's the green alien looking thing. He looks like the alien baby from Men in Black.
Okay, so that was.
Yeah, or the bad
I knew
guy
it was
from,
like
Pirates.
Okay.
he was Clone War.
That's in the future,
yeah,
guys.
yeah,
We're
we're-
in 1977.
Yeah,
I was gonna say,
Okay.
that's-
I brought Jesse on this podcast, and we got what we got to learn here is we got to
Davy Jones.
We got to get one of those those collars that we put around your neck and zap you a little bit to get you back on track.
I wanted to take a step back.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
never knew that when he was looking up in the sky. I thought he was just like dreaming of leaving the planet. I didn't realize he was actually watching a battle.
Oh no, that
that's
was
a
that
different
was
scene.
yeah.
That's a different
That
scene.
was, and that is exactly what that scene was like. Oh, I want to get out of here.
Okay. Okay.
That's a different
Explore the
scene.
galaxy.
If there is a battle going there, they lead us to believe Tatooine is in the outer reaches
Yeah, it's
of the galaxy that nobody cares about. So why would they even be fighting? Why would there be any fighting taking place?
So Princess Leia is trying to get to Tatooine to get to Obi-Wan Kenobi. The Empire has chased her there. So at the beginning of the film, when the ship is getting overtaken, that's what he's looking up at from down on the planet.
They're on their way.
They're on their way there.
Okay.
So when she's getting captured, that's what he's seeing. So it's not really a battle. It's just them. They have chased her there. There's a bunch of scenes with him, with his friends. There's even a girl that is a part of his group of friends.
Yeah.
Which is weird for Star Wars.
Well, because they
I
cut
didn't know they did.
They
such
cut the
things.
audio part out of that too, because when he was right at that Tashi station when they step out and he's talking to Biggs, Luke wanted to join the Imperial Academy. He wanted to be a pilot for the Imperial Academy. And then Biggs tells him, I'm leaving the Academy and going to join the rebels.
Well, so after all this, George Lucas has said, I just want to rip off a Kurosawa. His friends say, you shouldn't do that. You should do all this other stuff. And then he films all this stuff and realizes he has just made American Graffiti in Space.
Just the buddies hanging out on Tatooine.
And so he cuts all of it and goes back to his original idea.
That makes perfect sense.
So the whole reason why none of that exists is because it was shot, but he never wanted it and then ended up getting rid of it. Much like the very beginning of the film, he wanted it to say episode 4. Every version you've probably ever seen has said episode 4, A New Hope. In 1977, it did not say episode 4, A New Hope. The studio did not want it to say that. So the first version of this film in 1977, it just says Star Wars.
It wasn't even A New Hope.
Oh,
It was
really?
just Star Wars.
It just starts. It
Like,
says,
this is your one and only chance, buddy. Stop dreaming of more.
It's Star Wars, and then the scroll starts. And there's a couple different things that happen in there. Cool thing about the scroll is how they actually did that was it is a large thing of like black paper. The letters are all cut out from the paper, and then there's just light shining up from it. It's like 6 feet wide, I want to say. And it basically the camera just...
Well, they just take an angle shot of it?
Yep, camera just pans back over it. But all the letters are cut out with the light shining through it. Took 3 hours to do that one scroll. But then if you imagine, they also had to do it in multiple different languages.
Oh,
so
think about that.
Yeah, so in order to do that, it wouldn't be just like you change the type. No, you had to cut the letters back out in different languages.
The amount of innovation and stuff and what they created just for this movie on that budget and the time frame.
Yes.
Is just...
I mean, speaking of models.
It's a...
From Bond, the models for Star Wars?
Yeah.
What the
Yeah. And it's all just kit bashing for the most part, which is really
the
cool.
The Death Star surface was what, like battleships? And
all sorts of stuff.
All sorts of...
They just take these old World War II kits that were for like model kits, and you just bash those together and make, you know, your basic patterns behind you. Try not to have repeating type stuff, and you'd have a ton of different guys working at the same time, so they'd shift every once in a while so that one portion didn't look like one thing. And so I'd work here, then you'd come in and work here, and I'd go where you were, and you just kind of keep moving so it would not create like a pattern. But it's basically just gluing things on. And it turned out fantastic.
It looks cool.
And I think that's, everyone always says, that's the coolest thing about Star Wars is the lived in world that it created. He does a fantastic job of not explaining anything. And he talks about it, where he's like, in 1977, people thought this movie moved so fast because they were trying to like catch on to what's going on. They're watching the background. They're trying to figure out this world. And meanwhile, he is not explaining anything.
No, I mean, the Clone Wars are just, the what?
He said he'll use a lot of jargon, but he never explains anything. He doesn't explain like, how does a hologram work? How do the droids work? Why is the droid in a oil bath? None of it's ever explained. He just keeps moving forward. And it's such an effective way of telling a story because who gives a shit?
It is, because you're in this universe. That's just normal. That's how they talk. Just go.
Yeah, you just go. And he doesn't do a ton of jargon. He does a lot of it, but it isn't like how it gets bad in the further versions.
Well, by the prequels, he's just like, everything. Like, what?
Can we talk about really quickly about the difference between the versions we have now and the version that was originally put into place?
There have been so many cuts.
Very, very...
So many changes to the point where some of these changes are just so unnecessary and just stupid.
It is weird. So you consumed it probably for one of your first times, had to have been around 97, right? How old would you have been in 97? 10. So would you have, do you remember watching Star Wars before that?
No.
Okay, so you probably...
I don't remember when I first saw Star Wars.
So you probably saw... Your first experience of Star Wars is most likely the 20th anniversary special editions.
Probably.
Probably.
Yeah. I mean, we must have owned them.
We owned them because we consumed them a lot. Rick was obsessed
I
with Star
probably
Wars.
just kind of learned it just from it being around me all the time.
Yeah.
They played episode 4 a lot on TV.
Okay, maybe. That could be
I don't know, just that one.
Because I don't specifically
that's all I
remember
remember seeing on TV.
ever sitting down and watching Star Wars. It just has always been a thing. I've just always known about it, probably because of Rick.
Well, and I would say, because he started working on these for the 97 20th anniversary. He started working on those years before that. So there was a lot of hype by 97. But the special editions are dog shit. Like everything he did in the special editions are basically detract from the movie.
It's so hard to go back.
It really
and watch
is.
those.
If you watch the film now, you can tell the stuff that they put in 97, and now they've went back and like
he's redid his special
Mm-hmm.
edition stuff.
Add all this shit. Now we got to go in and clean it up. You can keep some of it.
Yeah. And you can see all the time that there's like just kind of this haze around everything that they've added in.
I still have the VHS special edition.
Yeah.
And I can't.
It's rough, dude. It's rough. I wish they wouldn't have done that. I get it at the time, but so the most obtrusive stuff is the Han shoots first. So in the original cut, Han just blows Guido away, and then they're like, "Oh, that's not in character."
Wait a second, he's a bad guy.
Yeah. Well, there was a cut where Obi-Wan Kenobi, the guy that he cuts his arm off, there's a cut where Obi-Wan Kenobi cuts his head off. And they're like, I don't know about that. That seems a little aggressive.
The guy was a dick.
Yeah.
He was.
I don't like you. No more head. But yeah, so that stuff is so jarring where they literally just cut him and shift him over.
Yeah.
It's so stupid. And they do that, and then they have the scene where he walks behind Jabba, and they just take the camera footage and like jerk it up and back down.
Yeah.
It's so stupid.
It looks awful.
In comparison, though, so there's the Bantas. Did you remember the Bantas? The Bantas are like the big woolly mammoth.
Yeah, they're just elephants with covers.
Yeah, they just took elephants and dressed them up in costumes. Really? Those are the Bantas. And it looks awesome.
Yeah. Well, and we've talked about this on the podcast before, but the 70s and 80s where they had to actually make things. They're just making everything CGI now, which is more expensive, so it's not even easier or cheaper.
But it
was just
oftentimes doesn't look
so
as
much
good
cooler
either.
to have something they had to build.
Well, and there is a restriction to it, right? You wanted to be able to take the shot of the Tusken Raider jumping onto the Banta and the Banta moving. So you can't do that with anything other than something where you can actually have the animal then move. So you're like, well, we'll dress an elephant up. So that becomes like there's a problem and a solution. And that's the difference with CGI is there's no problem. You can do anything.
Yeah.
There's no like restriction to it. And so then there becomes no real need to figure out how to make something more cinematic or make it look a little more realistic. I don't know. But I thought it was hilarious. When I learned that those were just elephants, I was like, that's actually kind of cool. Because obviously you can tell, but they're very snuffleupagus-like, but they don't look like an elephant. You did a good job. In the movie, because again, it's a movie, you're like, oh yeah, it's a Banta. What else would that be?
Right.
Yeah. Anything else you guys have on 77 Star Wars?
The Vaseline smudging the wheels out on the land speeder. That was a good one.
That is my favorite behind the scene thing of this movie. They shot the footage on the land speeder with rear projection like you would do in any other movie, and it looks terrible.
Oh my gosh.
It looks terrible. So you've got Luke in the land speeder, like reaching in the back to get something, and he's talking with 3PO, and it just looks terrible.
Looks like a Beastie Boys video where they're doing
pretty
that
bad.
on purpose.
It's pretty bad. So when you say that they had to do reshoots, that was one of the things that he's like, we absolutely have to reshoot this. And they come back with, there were the three things that they did with it. They either put a mirror. So the mirror is, I think, probably the coolest of the group.
Yeah, that's the one I remember.
Yeah. So they just angle a mirror down so you can't see it. The second one is they just have rocks in the foreground. So as the camera's panning, you just keep this layer of rocks, and it looks okay. And then the fun one is, just Vaseline that shit. So they just put Vaseline on the camera, and you can totally tell. If you like look at it, you can totally tell it's just smudged underneath, and the camera just stays with it, so you can't see that part of what's underneath it.
Do you know how I've actually touched that actual land speeder they used?
You are such a fucking nerd.
How did it feel?
Awesome.
How does that feel, baby?
How did it make you feel?
Where did you touch it? And don't tell me.
Oh, the pipe.
muffler.
I want to know location
I
of the
snuck
land
into
speeder.
Lucasfilm. No, or into the Skywalker rant. No.
Where did you touch it?
Don't you remember when they had that exhibit at the Science Museum?
No, I don't remember that.
Big exhibit with lots of original props.
And they let you touch?
No, they didn't let me.
Okay.
It was behind ropes, and it's like the first thing that was in there, and it's like, do not touch, do not touch. Yeah. I'm like, I'm touching this thing.
In 2025, I will be on the iKnowBadeaux podcast, and I must tell them that I have touched this land speeder.
I don't remember the Star Wars. I remember when they had the Jurassic Park exhibit like that.
I went to that too.
Yeah,
that was really cool.
Yeah, what'd you touch there?
I touched one of the Jeeps that was crushed by the T-Rex.
That was cool. Yeah, that was in 94.
Yeah. The movie was. I don't know when the exhibit
No,
was.
93 was the movie. I think the exhibit was like
right away.
either 94. It was fairly shortly after the movie.
I like the idea that somewhere there is a wall of photographs.
I got a photo of that.
Of people to not let into your exhibit. And Jesse pubes.
Somebody's like, someone touched it.
They got your fingerprints.
Do not let this guy in. He'll fondle all of the props. Really cool movie. It really changed all of cinema. I mean, honestly, it did. And again, another movie that they did not want to release. Like, they're like, what are we going to do with this? This is dog shit.
By all means, that movie should have never came out.
And so much so that, so you show the footage with the dog fights. They're like, what the fuck is going on? Then there's the lost cut, which has all that other nonsense in there. And they're like, what is this garbage? Mm-hmm. What did we purchase here? Mm-hmm. And then he asks for more money. And they're like, okay, take your more money. And he goes back and comes back with a film that is very, very tight and is very well done.
There was some weird story about that. It was one weird little shot, and it was all up to this one guy to get this in there for these execs to see, to give them more money.
Okay.
It was something like that I remember hearing. And yeah, because they came back and they're like, oh crap, George is going to be like, hey, what'd you get done when I was in Tunisia or whatever? And they're like, well, we got this model made.
Yeah.
And he wasn't happy. And yeah, he came up with some little thing to show off.
Yeah, George Lucas was known for getting really pissed off that people were not getting things done quick enough. For such a mild-mannered man. Most of the R2-D2 stuff had to get reshot because when they were in the desert, R2-D2 just didn't work.
Yeah.
So all of that, where you like have him in the cavern and stuff, all that was reshot.
They always had problems with him.
Very cool though. It is interesting once you know that stuff that there's like scenes within the movie that are way out of order, and episode 4 is known for that. Continuity wise, if you watch it, things are constantly happening that you're like, what? Wait a minute now. Like that shot's from the Death Star, but you've put it as a reaction shot on the Millennium Falcon. Like there's just tons of stuff like that. Or when C-3PO says, do you mind if I shut down? And then is awake and shut down and awake and shut down because they just totally changed that entire scene around because it didn't work. So it's a really cool movie, though. I think the final cut of that movie in 1977 with some small tweaks is a pretty good example of just leave it alone. But at the same time, though, like when you consume it now, most people are like, wow, look how well that movie holds up. Well, the version you're seeing now is like 4 times over cleaned up. Mm-hmm. So I would love for there to be just the 1977 version that you can just consume.
I would like to see that. Yeah. I know I haven't. Mine was probably the 20th anniversary, maybe even the 30th anniversary.
There was only one digital release of the theatricals for all 3 of them.
Interesting. Well, because 1981, I believe, is when they re-released it in theaters, and that was already the change. They already made changes to it. That's when the New Hope is added, and all that stuff. So, yeah, there's no.
I just want to see the scene in the movie where they try to walk through the door and bonk their head on
without the added sound effect.
Yeah. That was in the first few cuts, wasn't it?
Yeah, it's all that in there.
Great.
They just
it was so Stormtrooper comes and just bam.
Yeah, that's one I don't think you can even really get rid of. The first time I saw that, I was stoned out of my mind. I had just woken up. It's like 10:30 in the morning. I'm hanging out with my buddy Dan, and we just smoked a bowl, and so we just put on Star Wars. And that scene happens. The guy walks through, hits his head,
90s.
And scene goes on, and it's like 90 seconds later, I turn to my buddy Dan and I go, I think I just saw something.
It was probably instantaneous, but in your mind, 3 weeks had passed. I had been thinking about it at dinner every night.
Mm-hmm. So then you rewind, and the audible.
Yeah, well, they added that later.
They
on.
add.
Yeah.
Because so I definitely had seen the movie prior to that.
Okay.
Because I would have remembered the dunk.
I don't know. I don't know. I'm not aware of when they added the thud, but it was definitely
that would have been
on.
special. I bet you that was.
It was probably special.
I bet you that was special edition because that was one of the ridiculous things. Like you highlighted that.
Well, it just became so well known as a goof.
That's my biggest problem with the special
just kinda
edition.
owned it.
Is all they put in a bunch of stuff that is very gag. You know, like there's a lot of aliens and robots fighting about stuff. You know, like there'll be an establishing shot, and instead of it just being like, oh,
and
that's
that,
cool.
like,
It's like,
can't-
there's
yeah.
robots fighting over something. It's just silly. All the
Well, I
time.
think it's Easter eggs for the fanboys.
I don't know if it is. I think it's excessive and kind of.
I think it's a man mad with money and CGI options.
Well, and he wants his universe to feel more lived in. So in the original movie, you're pulling into Mos Eisley.
Well, it was boring.
There's,
like
there's
the
a
robot.
couple little guys around.
Yeah, like
whatever.
the robot one you said, because that was just like a really boring
it's just-
shot of the door into the
Yeah,
cantina.
now we're just
basically.
establishing more of
Yeah,
this.
now there's a
this is what it's
blurry.
like.
'Cause it was
animal
supposed to be
that
a
walks in front.
bustling city, you know.
It's stupid. It's all stupid.
Totally unnecessary.
Completely unnecessary. My final thought on the film. I was listening to Carrie Fisher talk about it, and she specifically was talking about the hologram message that they had to record. So that took 2 to 3 days for them to film, and they kept shooting it a bunch of different ways. So in order to make it look like a hologram, they had to shoot it from a bunch of different angles, but they couldn't quite figure out what they wanted her to look like. So at first she had like her hair up in the buns and she just looked like a bald doll. So they're like, well, that's not going to work. And eventually they got to where she has her hood up to kind of cover that up. But because they had to keep shooting it from multiple different angles so that it looked like a hologram, they just had to keep shooting it over and over and over again to the point where it was like 2 to 3 days of just that
Just
for
help
her.
me, Obi-Wan. You're my only hope.
So much so that she has the entire thing burned into her memory. She can recite it verbatim at any point. You just say, what's the message? And she could just kick it out verbatim because it's just burned in 3 days of saying the same, minute and a half dialogue, if that.
Oh, it's got to be like 15 seconds.
I've seen her do that.
That's
at
crazy.
like conventions or something.
Yeah. Gabe, final thought.
Love the movie.
Okay.
Didn't see it until I was like 30 years old.
Oh.
I consumed the first trilogy before I'd ever seen the episodes 1, 2, 3 before I had seen 4, 5, 6.
That explains why you like episode 3.
Well, episodes creates fucking Darth Vader.
Scott, final thoughts.
It's a pretty good movie.
Wow. Oh, it took a long time to get to that. Jesse, final thoughts.
It's one of them movies that, it shaped me as a really young kid.
I loved Star Wars. I like Star Wars a lot less now than I liked it before. I think really
most people do.
Yeah, they've really dragged Star Wars.
Ruined it.
They've just.
I thought you were
dragged it.
talking 77. If you're talking Star Wars as a whole, it's a movie for kids.
Yes,
right.
absolutely.
We liked it when we were kids.
Yes.
Kids now like it too.
Yes, yes. But at the same time, Smokey and the Bandit is a film that you can consume at any age and love.
Yep.
So is Star Wars 77. You can consume it and love it at any age. So, all right, folks, that's the end of 1977 films. Yay or nay on the 77 films?
Awesome year.
Yeah, we skipped a bunch.
We did.
We skipped a bunch.
So many movies that year.
Anything that we missed that you just want to give it a tip of the cap?
Saturday Night Fever.
Well, it's on there. We'll talk about it after the drop. Yeah.
Okay.
All right. All right, folks. We'll be back next week, probably draft day. So we'll do a draft, and then we'll get back into the news and the games and all that stuff again. And then we will be on to 78, which should be fun. Again, we said Incredible Hulk TV show is 1978. Movie-wise, I believe Grease is 1978. It's the only one I can think of off the top of my head, but we'll get into that whole bunch. If you've got something you would like us to consume, now is the time to start sending it over so that we have time to all consume it so that we can get it on the list. So if you've got something you'd like to see us, we love it. We love it when you shoot out a movie or a TV show or something you'd want us to consume.
Animal House.
Animal House we will for sure be talking about. Yeah, that's a game changer. So again, shoot that over to us, 1978, and then we will continue on year after year after year after year after year, and probably in perpetuity with all of these. So until then, we're done.
Oh, you didn't say thanks.
I don't give a shit.
Well, I wanted to say Nas Reed.
Oh, Well, say Nas Reed.
Nas Reed.
Thanks. I love all the comments we get about these headphones, so it's one of my favorite things because the story is amazing. They're barely hanging on at this point.
They're beats.
There are multiple times during the episode where like one ear will cut out, or it's pretty awesome actually. And I love that people keep commenting on like what was the last one the guy said? There are TikTok users that are younger than those headphones.
And that's a good one.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a good one.
It's a running joke at this point, folks. I was so excited for these fucking things. They're like $360.
I bought Tegan a pair.
Yeah. These were the ones that came in like the nice box, like a packaging, amazing. Like you open this thing up and you're like, this is a thing. Holy. And then they fell off the couch and broke within a month. $360 headphones fell 1.5 feet and shattered. So, and have been taped together with electrical tape ever since.
And it makes your head look really big because of how it wedges out.
I know it's not a good look, but it is funny to me. Actually, Jaeger said, "Hey, I got something for you the other day." And then he reaches into his car and throws out something. I catch it, and I'm like, Beats? He threw me a new set of Beats. So when these ones go to we're just going to re-up on the Beats again. Right. So
there's a movie in 78 called Smokey and the Outlaw Women.
Ooh. It's a knockoff.
Tagline is, their numbers are 36, 22, 36, and Smokey wanted them real bad.
Oh, nice.
Oh, I see what kind of movie that is.
Yeah, I think they saw the title of Smokey and the Bandit and thought that Smokey was the bandit.
Oh, shit. I mean, there's Grease, Animal House, Superman.
Yes.
Halloween,
right.
Invasion of the Body Snatchers.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
Up in Smoke?
Up in Smoke.
I don't think I've ever consumed a Cheech and Chong film from start to finish.
Up in Smoke is a good movie.
Yeah. Super fast, Scott, your take on Saturday Night Fever.
The movie's terrible. I didn't like that movie at all. I tried to watch it 3 nights in a row, and just all these characters suck.
Most of them are pretty.
They're all bad. They're all terrible.
Yeah.
I don't like any of you.
Yeah. Jesse, are you a fan of Saturday Night Fever?
I mean, I did like it when I was younger, and I don't hate the movie.
Yeah, you can say you like it. Just because I didn't like it doesn't mean you'd have to.
Oh, no. I mean, I'm not like, it's one of my favorite movies of all time.
It
was good. I mean, if you like disco and
the soundtrack's great.
Well,
I like that, and the dancing scenes are pretty cool. Yeah.
But yeah, all the interactions with, I mean, yeah, he's an idiot.
Yeah. They're all
just, where is it? Brooklyn?
Yep.
Brooklyn. And yeah, they're all just stereotypical. Just meatheads.
Well, I mean, now they are. But I wonder if they were then. I wonder if that was.
No, they were probably every New Yorker back then.
Yeah, then they were Guidos.
Yeah. But yeah, let's go beat up those.
Yeah. There's a lot of that. That's a very 70s thing. I will say this. I think it is an essential New York film, and I love New York films from the 70s and 80s. I love the opening sequence when he's walking down the street and he goes,
well, that's
the
iconic.
Pizza thing. They're
look how many movies have mocked that.
Hey, Tony, what you want? Two. And then he takes 2 pieces of pizza and puts them on top of each other and folds them and eats them together.
As he's carrying his paint cans.
And I immediately thought to myself, that's ridiculous.
That's how you do it in New York City.
I'm a man that will consume pizza, but that's ridiculous. I love the opening scene because you're like, what is he carrying this paint can for?
Yeah.
And then he gets to his work and they were out of the paint. So this boss sends him to another store to get paint and bring it back as though it's their own. I loved it. It's just a nice little slice of time and reality. It gets a little long. And by the end, you're like, okay. And then it does a very 70s thing.
Oh, yeah.
You know, rapey.
Yeah.
Very
wow.
rapey. Oh,
Yeah,
there's a
Fever
lot
is
of
rapey.
There are a couple of dark moments in that movie.
Well, it's 1977.
Gritty.
Don't get me wrong. I do like, though, that she says, I don't usually let rapists into my house. So she like calls him out on it. Like it wasn't even
And
like
then let him in?
Yeah, and then she
I
lets
don't
him in.
usually.
Not only that, she's like petting his face by the end. It's like, okay, stop. We can still be friends, even though you raped me.
Who is the rapist?
You tried to rape me.
But we can be friends.
I did like it though, because it was like, this is an 80s rape. Like, we don't pretend it's not happening. In the 70s, we admit that you tried to rape me. We just become friends.
It's like, yeah, it's all right. It happens.
I'm not going to let you in my house. Oh, I will. But then you can still be
a
friends.
bunch of just creeps.
Yeah.
Like the dance studio guy.
Yeah.
He's like, hey, what's the percentage at today or whatever that was? And he's like, 68%. And she's like, what's that mean? It's like, he's slept with 68% of the female dancers that have came in here, or something like that.
Of his customers. Not the dancers that have come in here. Of his customers. All right, that's enough.
Hey.
Spot those beavers.